Alright, time for the challenge quest. We are running, let's see, I believe I have Kefka at 3-3 with his LD. We have Strego at 0-3 with his LD. And we have Relm at base CX, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to start out with Kefka getting his debuffs. Great way to start out. These guys will likely deal 1 damage to Relm, and then 1 damage to Kefka. Not Kefka, Strego. Nice when they target Kefka though, because he's always got that sap, so he rarely gets broken. Add Sketch to B first, so we can get that free turn to add the Sketch debuff to A. And because it's Sketch Plus, Relm will move her actual turn right in front of A, and then get another free turn right here. We use Sketch Summon to get the buffs up on Relm, and then we do HP attacks for days. Relm's HP attacks extend all of her current buffs, even the ones she didn't get for 1 turn. Oh, here I kind of don't know if, well, yeah, that was probably the right thing to do. So for Strego, we open up with his 65 CP, and then use his LD, because it will double cast, and then it will add the 2 turns of Soul of Thamasa. If you gave him his Bloomstone, which I haven't yet, even though I can, Quasar on the free turn, typically, or not free turn, free skill, typically the way to go, because Quasar is so strong. Where was I? So typically, his C65 will give him 2 turns of Soul of Thamasa, but I have not given him his Bloomstone because I wanted to keep the CP free for something, for some of his other stuff. And I've only given him 2 ingots in his armor. And it's been working out okay. But if you do have his Bloomstone, then he'll get 2 turns of Soul of Thamasa, and you don't necessarily need to run in, do Grand Delta or Brave to Death right away. But I need to, because otherwise Soul of Thamasa won't be there the next turn. And we want to keep Soul of Thamasa up pretty much always. Doesn't really matter if it runs out and we have a DX available, because DX isn't that strong, so we don't need to worry about casting it twice. Same with Brave to Death. It's just not that strong. That's more for utility. Now, if they didn't have Kefka's speed down, then they would likely have put up their barrier before Strego would have gotten his turn, in which case I would have opened up, instead of with Grand Delta, I would have opened up with Brave to Death to break them, obviously. It's not a bad idea to open up with Brave to Death to get the 2 turns of Soul of Thamasa, if you're running budget Strego like I am, to save the Grand Delta usages for when he has more buffs up. Especially if you're fighting these enemies and they have their shields on them. When they have their blue shields, because they double resist magic, I typically don't want to use Grand Delta if I can help it. If you can't help it, then whatever, use it. It's not worth losing the fight over. But because they shield themselves so much, and Grand Delta is so strong, and has so much overflow compared to some of his other skills, you don't want to waste it when it's not going to reach its full potential when they have their blue shields up. So that's my rant for that. Relm getting free turns for days. Just got to keep those Sketch debuffs on them, which is much easier to do when you pair her with Kefka, because he slows them down by so much. Kefka is going to deal heavy damage. I think like halfway through this fight I was like, oh yeah, Kefka has an LD, doesn't he? I forgot about it. And I'm not gonna lie, I was half distracted while doing this fight, so I might do some silly things that I wouldn't normally do if I was actually paying attention. Luckily this fight is so ridiculously easy with these 3, even at the type of budget that I've done. No burst on Kefka. That was an HP plus because I didn't want to use Quasar without double casting. Never use Quasar without Soul of Thamasa up. It's just, it loses so much of its strength. Don't do it. And so I did an HP plus because I should have Strego ZX up next turn, which I can use to get Soul of Thamasa. And it's not a big tragedy if Strego ZX is not casted twice because it's just not that strong. It would be a tragedy to not double cast Soul of Tommaso. And in hindsight, I probably could have used Brave to Death, but for a fight like this, with the type of mechanics it has, it's probably best to save it. Using Sketch and then Sketch Summon right away. So, Sketch Summon, when using it with Sylph, I think it's just Sylph in this game. It's a lot of battery, and no damage obviously, but it's a lot of battery. So one of the best times I found to use it is when Relm can launch. When Relm has a good launch setup, and you have Sylph for the summon, it's a good time to use Sketch Summon. It's probably good to space out Relm skills, as you can easily burn her out pretty quickly. So make sure you have your timing right. It depends on how many ingots you have in her, though, because Star Prism charges way faster when you have more ingots. Whereas with me, I don't think I've even realized Relm's EX yet, which I think is why it's silver instead of gold. So yeah, if you notice, Strego's EX there has a gold outline, Relm's has a silver. So it charges up a little slower. I have to use a few more skills to get it charged up. And Star Prism for Relm, in this case, is mostly just to keep that sketch debuff on the enemy so she can get free HP attacks. Her HP attack is really nice because it batteries everybody, and not by a bazillion in Brave, but by a decent amount of Brave. I think she's given 9,000 to everybody, which is decent. She does like chip damage almost. She's like the complete opposite of Strego. Strego rarely gets turns, and he just hits the heck out of the enemies when he gets a turn, whereas Relm gets a bazillion turns, most of them free, and just goes bink, little tiny things of damage and of battery for everyone. If I had to give opinions, Relm and Strego are both very strong. No regrets on pulling them. Strego is unique in his utility with his instant break mechanics, so I'm sure everybody's done their research and knows that instant break is going to be helpful in the future. But besides that, he still hits pretty darn hard, which is nothing special because lots of people hit pretty darn hard. But Strego is one of them. I used Brave to Death there to bring Soul of Tommaso up to 2 stacks again. Pretty much, I've played a decent amount of Strego. So what I should do here, yeah, see, I'm saving the launch for Relm's free skill, not free skill, free turn, and that will include Strego in it. Unless a comes out of break, which they did not. Oh, never mind, he's not launchable anymore. Little brain moment, and I think I'm just realizing that right now. Like I said, I was only partially paying attention when I did this run, so might have some small brain moments here. Anyways. What was I talking about? Quasar. Good use of Quasar. Strego, as many have mentioned, I'm sure, wants attack more than anything because his his potencies are so low and his potentials are so high with him dual casting his skills. Battery doesn't help him as much because it only affects his first cast, not his second, as opposed to attack or Imperil Enchant, which will affect both. So, pair him up with Garnet. It's probably one of his best friends. Dash is great to pair him up with. People like that. Others, maybe Raijin. Fujin too, probably. You know who the Imperial Enchanters are, if you have them. So there's a Star Prism to reapply Sketch debuff. I probably could have waited until after getting the free turn from A to use it, but whatever. No Havoc Wing available, gotta use something. We're gonna save the launch. Unfortunately, B and A both don't have even numbers here, so Strego can't break them both with Brave to Death. We're going to Sketch Summon. This will be a decent launch It won't deal much damage, but the batteries from Sylph with Sketch Summon is enough to still keep this a decent launch. I will take it. So yeah, they're still... Alright, looks like I use Strago's EX. This will be fine, because Kefka's Sap... Alright, it does break B. Kefka's Sap will take A down so low that it won't even matter that A still has a shield. Oh, and we'll be able to Havoc Wing it if we want. Yeah, there you go. Kefka's gonna break him. That works. Breaks out of water, but... and does very little damage compared to its potential. But yeah. And again, I probably could have just let A take its turn, because Kefka would have sapped all of its Brave. Sketch Plus. Sketch Plus does battery. Not as much as Sketch Summon when you have Sylph. Yeah, see, like I said, not paying attention here. High HP attack. That should have been a Brave attack. Anyways, what not to do? I should Light of Judgment, as their debuffs are running out, but whatever, I'll have another turn to do it. Would have been a good opportunity for Trine. Trine is good to use when Kefka's Brave is high, because Trine batteries before doing anything else. And so, if batteries based off existing Brave, and so you'll get more damage out of Trine that way. Kefka hits very hard, but he has very few hits, and so if you're trying to do a lot of damage with Kefka, keep that in mind with his Trine ability. This guy was already blinded anyways, obviously. Let's see, I should just... yeah. I don't know if I agree with that sketch, but whatever. Sketchy. But, it's fine. Not the end of the world. If I don't use Relm to 100% efficiency. I probably... me now, I think this was actually my first battle ever using Relm, ever. But me now, I might have waited until my free turn on B to use Sketch. It's better to use Relm's, it's better to save Relm's skills for her free turns, because if you use a skill on her free turn, it will charge up her EX meter. If you use an HP attack on her free turn, it will not charge up her EX meter. So that's something to keep in mind. It's the same thing with Vayne's free turns, by the way, and it's probably the same thing with Eldenarch, although Eldenarch cares less about that. Just throwing some Brave 2 Deaths out there to bring Soul of Thamasa back up to 2 charges. Fun fact, Hope, I didn't test it with Saz or Aiko, but I would assume them as well, but they can increase Soul of Thamasa's charges with their abilities. That increase everybody's buffs by an extra turn. So kind of like how we used to. I'm not even paying attention here. Probably, yeah, that was good use of Star Prism. So kind of the only problem is B is about to go. Yeah, that was probably the way to go. I mean, I could have risked blinding B, but this was great use of the summon. I could have risked blind, because B is doing an AoE Brave HP attack. It's always an AoE Brave or an all Brave HP attack when they add their white shield or barrier to themselves, whatever it is, and targets all. It's always an AoE Brave HP attack. So I could have risked blinding them and hoped that didn't. Just do a Brave 2 Death. Just do a Brave 2 Death. Yeah, I'm debating how I should break them here. But this should just be a Brave 2 Death, and it's not. It's a Quasar. It won't be a huge problem, because Strago's going to get his turn again before they do. But, yeah. They add so much Brave damage reduction to themselves that it wasn't good use of it. I think I didn't realize that at the time. So there's B broken. But I should have Brave 2 Death. I did that because I'd used Quasar because Strego already had 2 charges of Soul of Thamasa, or 2 turns of Soul of Thamasa left, and I was trying to be efficient there. But, oh well. What was I ranting about? I don't know. It was good use of the summon though. I could have risked blinding him, but that could have been any... It was a big risk. Kefka's blind is only 50% chance to not hit. And if he would have hit anyone, it would have been 20,000 damage to them, and so it would have been a wipe. Gotta remember to keep Kefka's debuffs up, and shouldn't have issues like that. Maybe we would have lived with Sliver HP because of Kefka's Brave Sap, but it wouldn't have been worth the risk. It was definitely a good time to summon. So, pair Strego up with people who up his attack. Edward's a fantastic pairing for Strego, by the way. Alphamel is probably a good one. Good amount of attack auras. Bosch is great to pair with everybody and anybody, except for like Warrior of Light, I guess, but yeah. Bosch is great with Strego. Good use of Quasar. I'll have to be careful because the buff granted from Strago's EX is getting low, and so I'm going to want to use his EX soon. You know who actually does decently in this, not the challenge quest, but in this fight is Galuf. I unfortunately don't have his EX, but I ran him at 35 CP a few times, and he does quite well, even at 35 CP for this. So I have a feeling he'll be banned from the TCC challenge. But yeah, how about that? Galuf's good here. And the reason for that is every single one of their HP attacks are physical based, so he can always dodge them. And there's only one Brave HP attack, and it rarely comes up. And when it does come up, you see it coming. It's telegraphed. It's when they put on their White Aura, which is a low turn rate skill, so it pushes them back in the turn order anyways, and then they target all. That's the only time they ever use it. So you can see it coming, you can prevent it from happening. So yeah, Galuf, I recommend him for this one. Just make sure you have a way to deal with that White Aura when it comes up, whatever way you decide. Strago's going to have to use his EX on this turn, because Soul of Damas is down to 1, and the buff given by his EX is down to 1. The only exception to that would be if they need to be broken, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Good launch right there. Yeah, I don't think I've used Kefka's LD yet because I forgot he had it. Kefka doesn't really need his LD. I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Kefka is so powerful with his debuffs and with his EX that he runs really well without his LD, as opposed to, say, Emperor, who really wants his LD. Yeah, there I was like, oh yeah, he's got an LD. And I'm just going to use it for the damage. Really, I find Kefka's LD is more for the damage than to necessarily frame his debuffs, outside of maybe Trine. Granted, that would not... I would be singing a different tune if we were fighting an enemy that constantly buffed themselves. Then I would say, yeah, Kefka's LD is going to be great for that. But for the most part, Kefka is extremely usable without his LD, because his skills are so powerful. Well, more so his debuffs are so powerful, his EX is so powerful. Kefka's EX is more important than his LD, for sure, as opposed to Strego. His LD is... he's almost unrunnable at this point without his LD. I don't think I'm going to even bother to try any no LD runs with Strego. And Emperor can exist without his LD, but he really is boosted without it. I'm sorry, he's really boosted by his LD. I'm using Meteor Plus here instead of Hyperdrive, because Hyperdrive hits very hard as far as Brave damage, and so I want to save it for instances when Kefka gets his turn and has really low Brave. He had a lot of Brave going into that turn, and so Hyperdrive hitting as hard as it does, there was very little to be gained by it. Wouldn't take full advantage of it. Although, instead of Meteor Plus, which also hits decently hard, I probably could have just used a Trine for its damage, which also would have charged Havoc Wing a little faster, but oh well. Like I said, not paying attention. So, I have an okay launch here with Sketch Summon. That's what's going to happen, it looks like. At least it'll put Kefka in it with a good amount of Brave. For A, if Kefka's Havoc Wing is not up, then that's not a problem because Kefka's Brave Sap is like 12,000 right now, and so A won't have enough Brave. Yeah, see, looks like I'm gonna use one of his skills to jump him up, and then just Havoc Wing anyways. But it wouldn't have mattered because Kefka's Brave Sap is 12,000 because it's 20% of his max Brave, which is absolutely bonkers. It's by far the most powerful Brave Sap in the game that's available to us at least. Unless I'm missing something, but I really don't think I am. And it would have left A with so little Brave that A, even if A would have used an HP attack, wouldn't have really done much damage. Emperor. How does Emperor do here? I guess fine. I think Kefka does better because of the instant breaks on Havoc Wing, and Kefka's debuffs are amazingly powerful. But I never got Emperor's LD. I threw a couple of tickets at it, but it just evaded me, and whatever, I'll live. I'll probably go for it again when Emperor's challenge quests come back up, because I pull for challenge quests. I pull to complete them. This would be either Strego needs to use either a ZX or a Grand Delta in order to get Soul of Tommaso back up to 2. It might have been a decent time to use Grand Delta, because I'm down to 1 Quasar, and I want the free skills from Grand Delta when I use the next Quasar. And with my Strego being a budget Strego, his dual cast is very weak. Or his HP plus is very weak. This is a fine use of Meteor, by the way. You can see it hits hard enough to make good use of damage-wise. Yeah, I still have 2 more Grand Deltas, and they're almost dead. So, one thing to note from here is that this team has done a lot of damage. Now, granted, everybody's synergy, so that's part of it. But Kefka hits very hard. Strego hits very hard. Relm doesn't necessarily hit hard, but hits enough to make a big difference. And so this is one of the few budget challenge quests I've done in a long time where I didn't finish at like turn 80 plus. Of course, I say that now and watch me still finish at turn 80 plus, but the fact that I'm not going to cut it so close to the end, and I'm still running a budget team here, just goes to show how hard Kefka and Galuf, and arguably Relm hit. Relm doesn't hit hard, she hits a lot, but you get what I'm saying. This is great use of... Yeah, it's going to have to be a Brave 2 death here. Would have preferred to use a Quasar on the free turn, because as you can see Brave 2, or the free skill, because as you can see Brave 2 death, with them this low on HP, does not hit very hard at all, but it's not worth throwing the game. It's not worth throwing the fight. I'm running low on Realm skills, so I opt to save them because I have many, many turns left. Havoc Wing is going to hit very hard. Does Kefka ever not hit for 9s when he's synergy? Jesus. Like, I don't think I ever used Kefka C65. This is great use of Hyperdrive because Kefka was low on Brave, and it still did max damage because it hits 12 times. So, that's mostly what I use Hyperdrive for. The All Brave plus HP attack broke us, but it didn't, even with the break bonus, it doesn't deal a lot of damage. Relm, I think, has 1 Sketch Summon left, so I'm being careful with it for healing purposes. HP attack. For Relm's for Relm's free turns, typically you're going to want to HP attack over Brave attack. The battery that it provides is just where it allows it to be more effective when all things are considered than just Brave attacking with her. Obviously there will be a couple of exceptions, but that's typically the rule. Let's see. I don't think... Yeah, okay. We're going to put Sketch on B, so that way we can move our turn up, because it was a Sketch Plus, to right before B's turn. And take a turn right after B does. We'll get this final Grand Delta used, because they're basically done. And might as well Sketch Summon. Nope, we're going to HP attack. I guess we're going to Sketch Summon on the free turn or something. And we'll Havoc Wing into a launch. Battery up Relm with it. That's a pretty darn decent Brave attack, considering everything. Kefka gets an instant turn because he has such high turn rate on all of his abilities. Let's see. It would probably be best to just HP attack or Sketch Summon here. Well, probably HP attack. Yep. And then here we want to use... This would probably be a decent Star Prism. And that would get us a free turn right after A goes next. So, Star Prism, good job. And that takes out one of them. And this will take out the other, so I guess it doesn't matter. Although, couldn't apply Sketch to to A due to Kefka having all those brain debuffs already. And that's the challenge quest. With what I would argue is a budget team. 81 turns. So I guess I still went over 80. But still not as bad as some of the other budget challenge quests I've done. So let's go look at the team. We have Kefka at 3-3 with LD. Everybody's got as many character boards as they can get. Kefka has absolutely amazing artifacts. I will take it. Strego at 0-3 with... I got really lucky on Strago's artifacts. Those are quite good for considering how few I've done. And Relm at base CX with some decent artifacts.